Hi, my name's Madeline. I'm a knitter based out of Minnesota, and this is my first YouTube video. Um, I'll be taking you along with me as I knit this month and recording snippets of like what I'm working on and just me yapping at you. I got this idea from KarlijnsCorner. Hopefully, I didn't butcher your name. I'm sorry, but I'll have a link to her video in the description. She does weekly vlogs. Since this is I'm just getting started with YouTube, I will not be doing weekly vlogs. I will be doing monthly vlogs. So we'll just see. We'll see if I like this, if this keeps going. I admittedly am very camera shy, and so it will probably take me some time to get comfortable, and so the awkwardness is to be expected. The reason I want to make these videos is that one, I find Carlin's Corner's videos super entertaining to watch. They're some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube. And also for two other reasons. One is that I don't plan my knitting very well. I kind of get in my head that I can knit a lot more than I actually can. So I'd like to record monthly to kind of get a better sense of like how much I can actually get done in a month so that when I'm planning my knitting, I'm planning things more realistically so I'm not getting all stressed out. Because if I like, for example, like I like to think that I can knit more than one sweater a month, then realistically, I think I can only knit one sweater a month. So I need to like account for that when I'm planning things. The other reason I would like to record this is because I would like to slow down my knitting. A lot of times I get so caught up in having the finished item and planning for the finished item and making sure it's going to fit in my closet and then I'll wear it and everything that I don't slow down to enjoy the craft. It's a slow craft, and I would like to slow down and appreciate the process more than just a final end product. I'm very much a product knitter, and so I want the final thing at the end, and I kind of want it to go by as quickly as possible, but I want to take time to enjoy the process of actually knitting my knits. And I think that by recording my like work on them, that maybe it'll help me do that. So we'll see. It's an experiment. I don't know. I'm just trying this out. Um, so before we get into the what I'm working on right now, my whips, I just really quickly wanted to go over what I'm wearing today. So this is like a self-drafted sweater. I kind of used parts of Petite Knit's chestnut sweater pattern plus my favorite thing knitwear's sweater number 11 light. So it's a super basic construction. You cast on like the small number of stitches for the back of the neck here. You do increases to form that trapezoid shape. And then you pick up along that front and knit this way while doing increases for the neck, casting on stitches here and knitting straight down. There's no shaping for the armholes. It's just a straight drop sleeve, which that's my preferred construction. And then the ribbing is just 1 by 1 rib on the cuffs and everything too. I used Barocco Ultra Wool Chunky in the color Heather. So far, I feel like it's been holding up really good. I have been wearing this almost every day since I casted it off 2 weeks ago. Been wearing it a lot. It's very much one of those sweaters that I don't feel precious about. I feel like it can take the wear and tear. So I wear it around the house when I'm like working from home. I wear it when I'm like napping on the couch and everything. So I'm like, it gets the normal daily wear and tear. And it's only just starting to kind of fuzz up on the sleeve and like you can almost kind of see a little bit of fuzzing on the underarms. But I'm like, I haven't depilled this at all. And admittedly, I don't know how much of actual pilling it is versus it just like forming a halo. And it looks really good still. So I definitely think I'll be using this yarn again in the future. The only thing is that this yarn behaves really weird when washed. So, I mean, I think it's typical of superwash wools. When when I was knitting with this yarn, it felt really, really stiff, and I was knitting it pretty densely too. But then when you wash it, it relaxes a lot. So, if you're going to use this yarn, I highly recommend that you wash your swatch. because it'll change a lot too. And I knitted this at a gauge of 18 stitches per 4 inches, which is really tight for a chunky knit, but I wanted to do that because I wanted the extra warmth, and I also wanted it to be more resilient to the wear and tear because I knew I was gonna wear it as, like, an everyday kind of sweater. So, I would just keep that in mind if you're going to use this yarn. I will use it again in the future, though. I'm already planning another project using this yarn in the rosemary color, and I'm really excited for that. I don't know when I'll get to it, but okay. So I want to go over my whips before, so you have context for the rest of the video. So I have multiple whips. I usually always have multiple whips. I always try to keep usually at least 2 whips going of 2 different needle sizes and also of different complexities. So if I'm working on something that's like really small and kind of complicated, like a cabled sock pattern, then I would want to also have my other project be something on larger needles that is more simple. So like maybe a stockinette sweater project and vice versa. If I'm working on like a cable sweater project, I want to be working on something on smaller needles with that's more simple, so like an Oslo hatch or something like that. So the first project I'm working on is the Alma mittens by Maya Okerstro. Hopefully I pronounced that right. It's a Swedish name. Um, these I've knit the first one and I'm working on the second one. I just put my thumb hole on hold there. So about halfway to go. I am using these 2 yarns. So this one is actually the same color as my sweater. So this is the Barocco Ultra Wool in Heather as well, but this is the worsted weight. And then this is Cascade 220 Superwash in the color Orchid Ice. I also, for these mittens, I'm also knitting a lining for them because I love a lining on the mittens, especially colorwork mittens because I don't like the way the strands feel. So the lining is used knitting Sandnes Garn Baby Ula knit held with Lang lace. So the Baby Ula knit is in color 4628, deep magenta, and the Lang lace in the color 85, which is bright pink. I just love having I don't think bright colors really suit me. And so I instead of having them like as something near my face, I prefer to have them tucked away, hidden, you know? And then it's also kind of fun when you're wearing it to see like that little pop of pink before you put your hand in the mitten. So between the stranded color work and the mohair lining, it is super warm, super comfy, perfect for Minnesota winters, although it is the beginning of March. So I don't know if I'll be getting much more opportunities to wear this, especially since it seems that spring is going to be coming very early here. This winter has been really weird winter in Minnesota. Usually we should have another like month of cold and snow, but no, it feels like April, but it's only March. So anyways, so I made a couple of modifications to this. First of all, the original pattern has you do first, I'll go over that the pattern here is different. I swapped the 1x1 pattern for this more, I don't know what you would call it, this pattern, whatever you would call this. I preferred this compared to the 1x1. I also didn't do increases for the thumb. Like a lot of mittens will have you do like increases to accommodate for like the thumb gusset. But I prefer in the winter, I often pull my mittens like on and off a lot. So I prefer not to have the wrist be smaller than the rest of the mitten. I prefer it all to be like the same. You can see it's like all the same width, the entire length of the mitten. So I don't need to do the increases for the thumb because the wrist is not any skinnier. So that's another modification I made. And then finally, like I did a lat band braid and then the lining was like the final modification. So I think if there's one thing I'm going to change with this mitten, I think I could make the thumb a little bit longer. So I'm going to make it a little bit longer on the second one. And then we'll see if I have to come back and fix that. So that's the Alma mittens. My next project is more of like a long-term whip. So I have a bunch of like scraps that I'm trying to use up. And I decided to knit a blanket for my cat, for her cat carrier. So when I have to take her to the vet and stuff. So I'm just using the scraps to kind of knit like a mitered blanket. I'm not really following a pattern for this. There's a ton of YouTube videos if you just look up mitered blanket that kind of tell you how to do it. I'm holding these, so if I'm holding a sock yarn, I'm holding it double to get a decate weight, or I'm just using like a decate weight yarn. And you pretty much just like, you knit across one side, or you pick up stitches along one side, then you pick up stitches across the other side, and then you do decreases on every other row to form the square. So that's how this is coming out so far. I'm not going to go over every yarn I used in this. I do make a lot of notes on my Ravelry. Usually not while I'm working on the project, but when the project is finished, I move all my notes on there. And so when this gets finished, I will have as many details about the yarns that I used on there as possible, although it's not gonna be all of them. But that's a long-term whip, so I don't know when that will happen. It's just kind of there. My next whip is also I bought this same color in every single weight that the Barocco Ultra wool comes in because I wasn't sure what weight I wanted to use to make my sweater. So now I'm just trying to use all the yarn that I had. So this is the Barocco Ultra wool in the color Heather. This is the fingering weight, which I think is the Ultra wool fine. It is 100% superwash wool. And yet I am knitting a pair of socks. So this might go terribly. I have no idea. It has no nylon content in it. So this is likely going to be a problem. But these are I just kind of designed these off of pictures that I saw on Pinterest. It's just a diamond cable with a double moss stitch on the inside. And then on the sides, there's a couple of cables. These are just 4 stitch across cables and then like a twisted rib there. I'm at the point where I'm like halfway done with my short row heel. This is the point where I'm going to work towards the bottom half of the heel, the part that would be touching the floor. And I need to hold it with a strand of like reinforcement thread, but I can't find a reinforcement thread that matches this. I have a couple different pinks, but none of them perfectly match. So I've been procrastinating on this because I can either hold the reinforcement thread with my knitting thread and it'll have like a marled look that will appear. It's only going to show on the bottom half of the sock, but it might still bother me because I'm particular about stuff like that. So my other option that I was thinking of doing was to knit it normally with the thread and then on the inside it's like a Swiss darning technique, I think, where you just like duplicate stitch. You pretty much duplicate stitch from the inside. And then that kind of hides the reinforcement thread on the inside of the fabric so you don't see it. It's not visible from the other side, the side that is facing out. But that takes a long time. So I'm unsure of what I'm going to do about this yet. So it's on hold for now, but this would be considered like a small complicated project, and the mittens are also a small complicated project, so I'm kind of prioritizing the mittens first, and then I will decide what to do about these. My next project is more of a mending than a knitting project. I have these... Oh, what was the name of these socks? So I have these rainy window socks by, who's the designer? Helen Stewart. So these are the rainy window socks by Helen Stewart. Gorgeous socks, gorgeous pattern. I love this color. This is one of my favorite colors. The yarn is a Fiber Co. Cumbria fingering. in the color Yew Tree. So it's a discontinued color, and also it's a discontinued yarn. The Fiberco is going to stop making yarns, so this yarn isn't really available anymore. And I only have a small amount left for darning my socks. So I have to be very precious about it, which is why I've been hanging on to all of my little like scraps and things to see if any of those can be useful. But the other problem about this yarn is, again, it's a fingering weight yarn. It doesn't have any nylon in it for strength. It is 90% wool and 10% mohair. And I kind of thought that maybe the mohair would add some strength, and I do think that, because it didn't wear out as fast as like some other socks I've knit before. Like I've knit socks with 100% superwash merino wool, and those wore out incredibly fast. I've also knit alpaca socks, and alpaca is not good for socks. But you can kind of see, I tried to mend these. I wore these are my favorite socks. So I've worn them almost every day for 6 months since I finished them before they actually showed any signs of socks. So it's actually pretty good based on the fact of I wear my socks around the house, on hardwood, on carpet, in my shoes, in my boots, all day, every day. I usually have a pair of knit socks on. But you can kind of see, I've tried to mend these already once. You can see I just went like back and forth and created like a woven patch. But you can see now holes are starting to form on like the sides of the patch. So it's requiring, and I have a full-blown hole like on the heel. So it's requiring a bit more mending than what I had done. So I got some Lang reinforcement thread. And so this thread is a mixture of like wool and nylon and acrylic. And this matches really closely with this. It's almost a perfect match. So I was really pleased when I found that out. And so the second sock here, I've actually started mending it already. So I completely took apart the short row heel. I like cut the yarn on both sides the way you would for like doing sweater surgery. Ripped back the heel, completely reknit it, and then grafted it back together using Kitchener stitch. And then I undid the toe and completely redid the toe, both while holding the reinforcement thread with it. So hopefully that'll provide more strength. And now I'm just kind of in the process of trying to fix the ball of the foot, which also gets a lot of wear for me. And when I get holes in socks, it's usually the ball of the foot and the heel. And so I was working on trying to like rebuild the patch, like sew the knitted fabric and kind of graft at the same time. I don't know if there's a name for this technique. But I just need to kind of, it's not very pretty, but it should do the job. So I just need to kind of finish it off and kind of graft these last kind of stitches together. And then I will go in from the wrong side and reinforce this some more. So this isn't really a fun project. I don't really like mending my socks. I really like wearing my socks, but mending them kind of feels like a chore. It's not as fun as like when I'm knitting. So, but I really like these socks and I want to be able to wear them again. So it'll all be worth it in the end. But that's kind of something I'm working on a little bit at a time, so it's not so painful to do. Okay, my next project is, there's not much to show yet. But this is the Berlin scarf by Susan Mueller. Let me make sure I have that right. Yeah, so this is the Berlin scarf by Suzanne Mueller. I'm knitting this using Lana Grosso Natural Alpaca Palo in the color 23, light purple. And I actually dyed this, so when this arrived, it was less purple, very blue. It was a very blue lavender. And I actually wanted it to be a little bit more like a light lilac lavender, like a little more like purple purple. So I ended up putting this in a really light bath of magenta, which is why it's like all caked up in like a ball here instead of in the like balls that it comes wound from the factory. I also modified this pattern. So modifying my patterns is going to be a repeating pattern. You'll find a repeating theme through my knitwear. The original pattern calls for like a bulky weight yarn on larger needles, and this is thinner. So it's like thinner. It's kind of similar construction to like your drops air, but it's much thinner. So where drops air would be considered technically like a worsted weight, this is much more like a DK or even like I would say this is like a light DK. So I'm working this using US size 4 needles. And I also cast it on more stitches than what the pattern calls for. The pattern calls for like 70 something stitches, something like that. And so I cast it on 90 something. How many? 98? I cast it on 98 stitches. So this is kind of like my travel project if I need to go sit in the doctor's office or I'm going to be in the car for a while or something like that where I just want something super plain to work on. This is the project that I've been grabbing. Usually I have like an Oslo hat, but this is the one for this month. I don't have the needles on here because it actually uses the size 4 is the same needles I'm using for the Alma's mittens. So when the mittens are finished, they'll go back on here and they'll stay on here. But for now, I've just been swapping them back and forth as needed. And finally, my last project is a sweater. So, it's supposed to be like a turtleneck sweater. So let me fold that. So here we are. So this is also a self-drafted pattern. For the most part, I'm following the chestnut pattern by Petite Knit. But I'm off gauge, so I'm adjusting for that. And I'm also making adjustments to make it look like the Winter's Pullover by Ozetta. And I would have been off gauge for the Winter's Pullover by Ozetta too, which is why I didn't buy the pattern and why I'm doing this all kind of off the cuff. So my gauge is like 17 stitches per 4 inches. I'm using Cascade Eco Plus in the color charcoal. I love this yarn. It's great to knit with. It feels a little rough at first, but it softens up a lot after washing. And it's one of my favorite knitting experiences. It's kind of like it's worsted or it's woolen spun. So it's very fuzzy. It sticks to itself. It's good for felting. I haven't tried felting with it, but supposedly it's like good for felting. So I have the neck done. I have half of the body done, and then I'm working on the sleeve here. I wasn't sure how long I wanted this sweater to be. I'm thinking I want to try making this longer than some of my other sweaters for what I'm used to wearing. So that's why I was like, I want to do the neck and the sleeves first, and then I will just knit the body to a length that I think looks good. I often think my sweaters need to either hit above the waist or above the hips or below the hips because hitting right at the hips is really awkward on my body type. So I think I'm going to have this one hit to hit the hips, which I haven't made any sweaters like that yet. So that is that. So it's a lot. I have a lot of projects going right now. So we'll see what I get done this month and what I cast on. I don't know. We're going to see how much I get done. So I was working on my mitten, and I was so excited. I was like, I was gonna get the thumb done and everything. And then I realized these are both right hand mittens. I was so tired last night when I was making the thumb hole. I didn't think to make the changes to make it for the left hand. So we're gonna have to rip back. Okay, so I ripped back to where the thumb was. I've got the thumb on the right side now. And now I've re-knit quite a bit. So, but I think I'm gonna take a break from this tonight and I'm gonna work on my other project for now. So I'm trying on my sweater. And I'm not having much luck today. I don't know how to show you, but... So, my sleeve is kind of angled a little too intensely, I think. I was looking for a wider sleeve. And it's looking like it's gonna end up pretty narrow at this rate. So, I think I will need to take the, rip back the sleeve and start over, unfortunately. So I just finished this mitten and I made sure this time that I now have a matching set of mittens. The thumb is in the right spot. So next I'm just gonna pick up for the thumb and get to work on that. My mittens are done. Here it is. So I still need to do the lining. I also need to weave in my ends, but first I'm gonna pop this in my bucket for blocking. I don't know if you can really see, but blocking will have a really big effect on the stitches, evening them out, and also especially on the thumb. I really want to block that out. You can really see the difference. It almost looks like fall here. All the snow has melted, so you can see all the leaves that fell last fall. But everything will turn green soon. Okay, we're back from our walk. Sorry if my background keeps changing. I keep trying to follow the sun around my house to get the best lighting. So, while I'm waiting for my mittens to dry, I have this Oslo hat that I knit a while ago back in October, and it's too small for me. I'll show you. It looks like it fits. It goes down a little far, but it just pulls on my head a little much. And since I suffer from migraines, that can be a problem. It can be a trigger for me. So I'm going to take this apart. I'm going to separate the mohair from the yarn that I used, and then I'm going to wash it so that it's ready for me to cast on at a later date. Good morning. Okay, so here's my skein that I took my hat apart yesterday and made. So it's been washed, dried, and now wound up. I always think it's so exciting when I get to reclaim yarn like this because it almost feels like I went to the store and bought this, but I didn't spend any money, and I'm able to reuse something that I wasn't wearing. So I didn't separate the mohair and the yarn because I thought that it was too sticky. Some mohairs are less sticky than others, so some mohairs I can separate and some I can't. And so this one was giving me some trouble. So I might still separate it now that it's been washed and it's all straight. It might separate easier, but for now, when I go to knit the hat, reknit it, I might just try to see about holding them together and see if it'll be okay. Sometimes the tension is kind of weird, but we'll see. And then my mitten is dry. My thumb blocked out well, looks nice. So I just need to weave in the ends on this, and then I'm gonna pick up for the lining. Oh, and this is Mercy. You wanna say hi, Mercy? No, she's settling in for a nap. So I haven't quite finished my Alma mittens. I have the one from earlier. I've gotten all the way to the thumb, and then I've ran out of yarn. I lost yarn chicken. So I can either buy more yarn, wait till I get more yarn to then finish it in the same yarn, or I can use some other scrap yarn I have, but I have another project. I was using this yarn for my scrappy blanket project for my cat anyways, so I'm kind of tempted to just wait and see about buying more yarn because then I can use the rest of it for that project as well. So I'm putting that on hold for now. I also casted on a new project. So this is in just the start of an Oslo hat. Just the start of it. Using, all tangled here. Here we go. So this is using Lang Yawool in the color Crepe 219. And then this is Lang Lace. This is one of my favorite mohairs. In the color Thistle, which is number 9. This is something that I'll just work on when I'm out and about, doctor's appointments, waiting in line and stuff. Throw it in my purse, whatever. So I'm not anticipating having this done this month. So the next project on my to-do list, or my queue, the next one on my queue, next highest priority, is going to be finishing these socks. So I still need to go in and graft this back together, and then I need to work on fixing the holes for the second sock. So it's been a few days since I last updated you, so apologies for the scene change again. I am updating you from the floor of our guest bedroom because that is where I can find lighting right now. So, to update you on where I am on everything, I finished my rainy window socks, fixing them. So they're all washed and blocked now. So you can see they're all patched up, no more holes. Toes are reinforced, heels are reinforced, and then I also reinforced from the wrong side the ball of the foot since I get a lot of holes on the ball of the foot. So you can see I wove in and I duplicate stitched from the wrong side to add that reinforcement. So hopefully I don't have to fix these again for a long, long time. And I'm really excited to have them off my to-do list because that was not a very fun project. But I love these socks. I'm so excited to wear them again. So then that means the next highest priority item, going in priority order, would be the pink socks that I am knitting with the Barocco Ultra Wool Fine in the color Heather. So I got to about here on this one. So I did the heel. I decided to just hold the thread of reinforcement on just the bottom part of the heel, so it only show on the part that is facing the floor. And then I kind of realized that to get the right length for my foot, it's not going to end on a nice cable. Like I was hoping it would end like right at the halfway point on the diamond cable, but it won't. It's going to end at like an awkward point. So I actually started a new sock. And this time I'm going toe up. So then that way I can start with the half diamond right at the toe, and then I'll just stop wherever at the cuff and it'll be fine. But this way I can get a really good fit on my foot. So I'll knit it exactly to where my foot length ends. But this one I ended up doing something different than I normally do for the toe. Usually when I do a toe up sock, I'll start with a Judy's Magic cast on and then do increases to form the toe box. But I wanted to get to that reinforcement thread just on the bottom side because again, you can see the marling and this reinforcement thread doesn't match as well as the teal one did. So what I ended up doing is I ended up doing a provisional cast on for right here, knit basically like a short row heel, got to the halfway point with just the regular Barocco yarn, and then I added the reinforcement as I picked up stitches and worked my way down. Then I picked up the stitches from the provisional cast on and then started working in the round. So I think this is the way I'm going to do it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to undo this, but I want to get this to the heel and then I'll wash and block it as like a mid project block to make sure it's going to fit okay before then I work on the leg of the sock. And then I'll come back and I'll tear this apart and I'll start this over from the toe up. And they're both connected to the yarn ball though. This one I started pulling from the inside and this one I'm knitting from the outside. Cause like I didn't want to cut anything until I knew for sure what I wanted to do. So that's priority number 1, newest priority. Then priority number 2, we have Marcy's blanket, which I have made some progress on. So I got another row of squares done, and then I have one more square left to do here. And then I think one more row, and then I'll be at the halfway point. So I think I'll probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'll do 10 rows to get the size I want. But otherwise, I'm really excited about this. But I say priority number 3, but this one can take a little bit longer. I'm not really rushing this one. I want to make sure that I can use up as much yarn as possible. And also too, because I'm going to end up getting more of this pink yarn because this yarn is the same yarn I used as the lining for my almond mitts that I ran out of yarn for, if you'll remember. And so I ordered more. I'm waiting for it to arrive in the mail. I'm going to need just a little bit of the new skein that shows up to finish the lining for my mittens. And then I'm going to have almost the whole skein to hopefully incorporate into this blanket. So that's the blanket project. And then Although I said didn't think I was gonna get this Oslo hat done this month, I've made a lot of progress. I might still not get it done this month though. I've been working on this a lot. I'm almost at the point where I can fold it to form the brim. But this one this is a recurring problem for me. This is all I have left of the Lang Yawol. And this is not enough to finish my hat. I weighed this and it was only like 15 grams, which I'm like, I'm almost halfway with my hat. And 15 grams is less than half of the 50-gram skein. So I'm gonna have to order more of this. But the problem is that the place I ordered it from, the yarn store, Woolen Company, is out of stock right now. So this is either I'm gonna knit into the point where I fold for the brim and then you do like the next little chunk of knitting before turning for the hat. And it's vague and I'm trying not to give away the details of the pattern. But if you've knit a no-sew hat, you know. If you know, you know. Um so what I'm thinking is I'm gonna get to that point where you're supposed to turn for the hat and then I'll probably just, like, cut this, and then that's where I'll join the new ball of yarn because I'm like, "They don't have any more of this." I'm not gonna get the same dye lot no matter where I order it from, even if I order from the same store because 'cause they're out of stock. So, I want to avoid, like, having that dye lot change, so I think if I have it at a place where it's like you won't see it, it won't be as noticeable. So that's my plan. So, I'm gonna hit this as far as till I get to that point, and then it's gonna have to go on hold until either one company gets more in stock or I will wait until I have more yarn that I need to order from Lind Hobby because Lind Hobby has it too, but it's a waste of resources to have them ship one ball of yarn across the Atlantic Ocean. So I'll have to wait till I have like a whole order, usually like a sweater's quantity worth of yarn. And then finally is my sweater. So I got one sleeve done and it looks great. The only problem is, and I'll toss this on really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this sweater is almost perfect. It, it looks really similar to the chestnut sweater that I was just wearing. Almost perfect. So I really had in my mind that I wanted the seam, the like drop sleeve seam, to actually come down further. Because in the pictures for the winter's pullover by Ozetta, it does. It looks like it almost hits like people's elbow, like right above their elbow. And this is like several inches off from that. And so I'm kind of at like a halfway point where to fix that, I pretty much have to start completely over. There's no way to fix that without just going straight back to the beginning. So I'm trying to decide if it's that big of a deal because I'm like, it feels good, it fits good. It's just not what I was going for. It looks really similar to my other sweater, which again, I like that sweater, so I know I'm gonna like the fit of this, but it, too many sweaters that all look too similar. It just feels too repetitive. I want different right now in my closet. And also, we're kind of getting out of the season for sweaters like this. Um, we just had a huge snowstorm here in Minnesota. We got like 10 inches of snow, which is great because I was able to go cross country skiing for like the last time this year, probably until fall. But it's gonna start warming up. All of it's gonna be gone this weekend. Supposed to be the highs are supposed to be in like the 50s Fahrenheit this weekend. So this sweater is not it's like a fall. It's a fall project. I'm gonna put it on hold. I think if I just put it on hold until fall, then that'll give me some distance, some space from it. And I think I'll be able to make a better decision about whether I want to start over or whether I want to just keep going with it as is. So we'll see. It's a little disappointing though, because this takes up a lot of space in my like yarn storage. And I'm really trying to get through stuff. I don't really want to be adding to it. But that's the update on this. So this one's going on hold. Okay, so that concludes the updates for my projects. Now I do have one acquisition that came in today. Ta-da! So this is some mohair I received. It's hand-dyed mohair, Wicker Park mohair by Movers and Makers. And this is in the color, all right, I'm gonna have to look up how to pronounce this. Asrai? Asrai? Asrai is the name of the color. I'll look it up later, how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that right now. But it's a beautiful green color. It kind of shows up more blue on cameras, I've noticed. But I bought this specifically to hold with the Movers and Makers Wicker Park worsted in the same color. And also I have the Movers and Makers Wicker Park Sport also in the same color. So these yarns, and I have 4 of the worsted one and 1 of the sport, I bought while I was in Chicago. I was at Nina Chicago, which is the name of the yarn store that's on all the labels. So I was in Chicago with my grandma a couple years ago, and I bought this from that store originally to knit the Knit Word scarf by, I don't remember who. It's in one of the Lane books. I'll have a picture on the screen and the name of the designer and everything. But then I kind of decided that that just like wasn't my style anymore. So I didn't want to knit that. So, and I also kind of experimented with a couple other like scarf patterns. The idea is to knit a scarf and a hat set. And I really like fluffy hats and scarves. So this just like wasn't doing it for me by itself. So that's why I decided to buy the mohair to hold with it, because it is such a hard yarn to like color match. I figured that I might as well buy the mohair specifically as like the same brand, same color. It's going to be the best color match that I'm going to get. And it's still a little lighter than what the actual yarn is, but that's actually okay for me, I think. It's actually preferred because I think this is probably, I know I'm not great with like the bright colors. I probably wouldn't buy this if I was in the store today, but it's what I have and I have an idea for what to use it for. So hopefully, I don't know when I'll cast this on, but it's on the queue. So I'm going to knit the Oslo hat, preferably, with the sport and one of these. And then the other one, I'm going to knit the Small Fry scarf by Samantha Kieran. I think that's right. Maybe. Subject to change, though. I don't know. We shall see. So that's my updates for now. I am supposed to be getting some more yarn today, but it's like a hodgepodge mix of things. I traded a sweater, I'm Lucky sweater, for a collection of like scrap partial skeins and things of just different yarns that I kind of wanted to try. So, and last update is that this weekend I will be going out of town. So I'm going to be going to another town in Minnesota here. I'm going to be staying there for the weekend with some of my family members, and then there's a yarn store in that town too. So hopefully I will be able to get some video of that, and maybe I'll find something good there. Okay. So I just got back from my trip yesterday and I wanted to update you on my progress, where I'm at so far. Um, so firstly, I know I said I was going to put this project on hold, but I was looking at the footage of me wearing it in the last update I gave you, and I actually didn't hate it. So I think I'm gonna keep going on it. And also it was like the best project to bring on my project or on my trip because it's just simple. I just had the second sleeve to do, simple stockinette in the round. And I already did the first sleeve, so it really was just like matching exactly what I already did. So I could just work on it mindlessly while I was chit chatting with everybody on the trip. So here I'm at. So I have one sleeve done over here, one sleeve done over here. So now the last thing I need to do is just work on the body to the length that I want. So I'm gonna keep working on that. And then I also brought my pink socks on the trip, but I didn't really get to work on them much on the trip because they were just too complicated to try and work on the same time while I was trying to chit chat with everybody. Um, so I didn't get much of this done on the trip, but I did make some progress. So you can see I've passed the heel and I'm a good ways up the leg now. This was all done since I got back from the trip and before the trip, so before and after. But I'm gonna keep working on this. This should go pretty quick now that I'm at the leg portion. I should fly by since I shouldn't have to start over anymore. And then the second sock will also go really, really fast. And then while I was on the trip, I stopped in at the yarn store where we were staying and I wanted to get footage of it, but admittedly I forgot while I was there. But I did get one thing. So I ended up getting a skein of Cascade Woolpaca in the color Lavender Heather. And I'm going to use this to knit up a pair of mittens. So I'm going to knit the Margaret mittens by Knitlit. I hope Knitlit is what it is, I believe. So I'm going to hold this Cascade Woolpaca with some Sandnes Garn Pure Gint. I'll have to order more because this is all I have left over from another project. So I'll use that for the mitten. And then for the lining, I have some Rauma Garn Plum in the color Light Lilac. And I'm going to hold that with this La Bien Aimée yarn that I got while I was on my honeymoon in Paris. And I had knit these up into a pair of socks already, but I don't really wear these a whole bunch, and I feel like this isn't like the best use of this yarn since it is such a light color. You can kind of see they've already started to discolor on the bottom, and I think I would enjoy them much more on the interior lining of this mitten so that every time I put my hand into this mitten, I can see that yarn and it'll be really cute. Plus, as on the inside of the mitten, the discolored yarn, you won't even really see it. And then I also got another package today, which was super exciting. I got a package of Sandnes Garn from Mother Knitter, which includes the last bit of baby Yule Lynette that I need for finishing my Alma mittens. So I can finally finish these. So I can have something finished for this month because we are about a week away from the end of the month. And at this point, I'm going to have nothing to show you as far as I finish. I also got 6 skeins of the Sandnes Garn Smart. I've never used this before. This will be an experiment. So far, it's like I wanted to try this yarn for a long time, but super squishy, and I'm really excited to try it. I'm going to be knitting a baby sweater for a friend's son who is turning 1 this month. I will be knitting the Storm sweater, the baby version. Not really the baby version. The 1-year-old. I'm going to be knitting the 1-year-old size using this yarn. So it'll be fun to try this yarn because I might want to order some to make a sweater for myself at some point. But that's where I'm at right now. So we got a week and some change to see how much we can get done. So it is officially April 1st, so the month of March is over, so I want to go over everything we got done. First of all, you can see I finished my sweater. I'll talk about this in a minute. First I wanted to go over some numbers I have written down. So I technically didn't start where is he? I technically didn't start filming right at the beginning of the month. I kind of started like a week after March started. And so I kind of just took whatever was in my Ravelry at the time for my totals for the beginning of the month, which aren't super accurate because I know I do have yarn that's not in my Ravelry. And I also destashed stuff that I'm counting towards that also wasn't in my Ravelry. So it's a broad estimation we will go with. But we'll say that at the beginning of March, I had 13,696 grams in my stash, which equates to 52,395 yards. Throughout the month, I acquired 3,186 grams, and that equates to 14,374 yards. And I will say the yards sound insane. That is because one of the yarns that I added to my Ravelry is actually a cone yarn. So it's a bunch of lace weight. There's like 7,000 yards on that one cone because it's a lace weight. But I will hold multiple strands of it together for a project. So it sounds insane, but it's not. It's not actually that much. Used. So what I finished this month, the Alma mittens used up a total of 165 grams or 557 yards. Then I also completed this gray sweater, which I love so much that I will put up a video of like my full turnaround because it's hard to do with me sitting here. This used 696 grams or 1,330 yards out of my stash. And then I also finished a storm sweater out of the Sandnes Garden Smart that I got. I really like plowed through this in like 4 days. This used, let me see, there we go. This used 239 grams and 523 yards. And really quick, my review of this project. So it was the first time of me using Sandnes Garn Smart. And I'm really glad I used it for a baby sweater instead of buying a full garment worth, a full sweater quantities worth like I was originally planning. Because I don't know if it was just the lot I got or what, but this yarn feels very squeaky to me. And I've used superwash wools before, like the Barocco Ultra wool, and that's not squeaky at all. This is like squeaky. It's better after washing, but really knitting up this sweater, this was a labor of love because I hated using this yarn. So I will never use that yarn again. I'm going to destash I have like one skein and some change left over that I'm planning to destash that I've posted on Lucky Sweater. If you're familiar with that app and you want to try this yarn, go look for it on there. If you are not familiar with that app, you should look it up because it's a great app that you can trade items with. You can trade sweaters, you can trade clothing, you can trade yarn. It's been one of the best ways I've found to destash things. But anyways, I destashed 919 grams or 2,613 yards of yarn. And then that leaves me with the total of 14,863 grams and 61,746 yards in my stash. So it's a lot. I really want to stash down, which is, I liked filming this video this month because it forced me to keep a little bit more track of these numbers so I can share them with you now. And I'm looking forward to filming another vlog for April so that I can continue to track this to make sure that it's going down instead of up, because right now we're trending up, which is a problem because I don't have room for it all. The other thing that I finished this month that didn't necessarily count towards any yardage totals is that I did finish fixing my socks, which was a labor of love as well. So I want to pat on the back for me. I did that. So that concludes March. Now, the whips I am taking with me into April. Well, first of all, I have my Oslo hat that I wasn't able to finish in March because I ran out of yarn. And the yarn I need is still on back order. So this will continue to wait until I get more yarn, and then hopefully I can finish it in April. The other thing was that I was working on these pink socks throughout March that I also did not finish, and I don't know if I will. I'm hibernating them right now. See, they look really good in the video. I'm liking the video. This is also another good thing. When I see things from a different perspective, I maybe stop overthinking it so much. But I'm debating taking this apart and knitting a different sock pattern. I'm not sure. So right now it's hibernating, and we'll make that decision later. So then the active whips that I'm working on is still Marcy's blanket, which we've made great progress on. So it's getting pretty big. I almost can't fit the whole thing on the screen. There we go. So yeah. So I will continue to work on this. I don't have any plans to finish it in April. It's more of a longer term whip, but we want to continue to make progress on it. And then there's more socks I need to fix. So I have another sock pair here. So I have my intersections socks. These are knit using Patton's Croy Socks yarn in the color linen, I believe. Flax? Oh, it must be flax. But anyways, so these have gotten, trying to figure out which one I haven't fixed yet. So you can clearly see from the bottom that I have worn these a lot. But they are starting to thin out in some areas, especially right here. So I'm going through and reinforcing the bottom by duplicate stitching on the purl side. So you can kind of see some of the patches I've made. Especially the heel here, yeah, you can really see. This is where I've gone through and I duplicate stitched on the purl side to get a really nice fabric. I've done the like vertical weaving before, but the problem with that is that if the original loops wear away, it continues to unravel, even with the vertical weaving. So my hope is that by duplicate stitching the purl side, that even if some of that original yarn wears away and starts to unravel, you have the integrity of the fabric still, because of the duplicate stitching will continue to keep everything kind of like woven into that knitted fabric. So that is the plan for that. So this will go into April with me. And I have 2 more pairs of socks after this that I also need to fix when I finish that. And then I also casted on for the Isle sweater by Ozetta using this yarn I got. This is Jill Draper Makes Stuff, the yarn Kingston in the color Gage Street. Which is like a really beautiful, it's like a grayish purple tweed with flecks of yellow, reds, and blues in it. Gorgeous. I am working on the raglan stitches here. I'm just about to I have, I think 10 more rows to do, and then I'll try on to see about splitting for the armholes. So this is gonna be my main knit for the next 2 weeks. So in Minnesota here, we should have about another 2-ish so weeks of 40-degree weather for sure, with spots of it getting like warmer. And those days of warmer weather will continue to increase as we go towards May. But it's really not planting in Minnesota really isn't safe until Mother's Day weekend. So that's usually when soil temperatures are consistently above 45 degrees, I think. Something like that. And so I have another month to be able to wear warmer sweaters still. Because after this, I will transition to more summer or spring knit. So that's going to be my main whip for April. But that pretty much wraps up March. So if you've gotten to this far with me, then thank you very much because this is my first YouTube video. So definitely a roller coaster in the beginning there. I don't know how interesting it'll be. We'll see. I really liked having the opportunity to talk about all my yarn. I definitely think filming the vlog helped me try to think a little bit more intentionally about my knits instead of just casting things on whenever I felt it. So whenever I had an urge. And I also hope that this will help me stay more accountable with trying to work down some of my stash. So we'll see. Although I can pretty much delusion myself into anything. But yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the April vlog as well. Mercy. Bye bye.